Welcome back. I'm Christopher Dean. We're speaking with Jim Matthews. And when we left, I was trying to get into the GOP Executive Committee.
Right.
Everything you say seems wonderful for the Republican Party, so I'm left thinking, I'm not the expert. You certainly are, and your party is.
Right.
It's your party that's saying you've betrayed them. They're saying you've made a deal with the devil. Every time I read about some Republican head, he's ridiculing you. In fact, Barry Miles, Whitpain Township Chairman.
Brian Miles, he's a municipal chairman. He's one of 57 or something. He's not exactly a leader. He's not a leader of the party.
But he basically says that you hate Bruce Castor so much you would do anything to hurt him to indulge that hatred.
Well, that's just a myth on his part.
Well, let's get into the GOP Executive Committee. They removed you from that committee. Why?
Well, how can you be removed from something that you weren't a part of?
So you weren't a part of the committee. So they didn't.
The last executive committee I went to was, I think, in 1973 or 1974. There hasn't been an executive committee. There's been an area leaders group. This year, about 4 months ago, there was an idea, well, let's expand the executive committee and have some meetings and see what direction we're going to go in. I never attended a meeting. And then I read in the paper that after the second meeting, I've supposedly been thrown out. And I talked to 9 people who were at that meeting, said they never saw a motion and there was no such vote. This was a few people afterwards talking to the chairman and talking to the press.
Okay. And
I'll guarantee you one of them was Brian Miles. There's 15 or 20 troublemakers. That's it.
Okay.
The vote last year was 249 to 244 to put me on there on this slate. I warrant if the election were held tomorrow and the convention were held again tomorrow, I'd have more votes than I had last time.
Okay, just one sentence. Why did they make that gesture anyway? Why? Why would they do it with a 3-term incumbent, someone who has an established reputation?
Because a few people on the other side of the political divide, as I said, there's been a split here for 20 years. I didn't create it. I'm a part of it. I didn't create it. And they're on the other side of the divide. They'll do anything they can to discredit me because I'm in charge for the next 4 years and they don't like it. They wanted the party to be of Bruce, by Bruce, and for Bruce. They don't like the fact that Jim's still in charge.
Okay. Let's talk about Bob Asher. Right. Bob Asher is a GOP power broker. He apparently donates a lot of money. Now, let me just finish my question.
Go ahead.
You were criticized by Joe Hoeffel for having accepted money from apparently an individual who many years ago was convicted of
23 years ago
of bribery. And Joe Hoeffel used that as a campaign tactic to criticize you for taking money from a convicted felon. I think Bruce Castor did the same. Speak about Bob Asher for a minute.
Bob Asher is an outstanding gentleman. He's a national committeeman for the Republican Party for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. He's been derided for the last 23 years because of a bad judgment back in that time, 23 years ago. Since that time, I think he's been Man of the Year of the Philadelphia Orchestra. God knows how many other philanthropic awards he's received. This was used against Tom Ridge when Tom Ridge ran for governor and Bob was his finance chairman. It didn't work against Tom Ridge. This was used when he was finance chairman for Tom Corbett running for attorney general, that you can't have Bob Asher involved. It didn't work then. It was used this time again for me. This is what, 10, 12 straight years now? Whenever they have nothing else to throw against a good candidate, they throw up, well, Bob Asher's raising money for you. It didn't work for Tom Ridge. It didn't work for Tom Corbett. It didn't work for Jim Matthews.
Okay, then let's talk about Joe Hoeffel.
It's an invalid accusation.
Let's talk about Joe Hoeffel. Because, frankly, what I've read about Bob Asher would back up what you just said. So then I wonder about a candidate who runs for office who certainly knows what you just told me. He knows a lot more than I know about Bob Asher, and Bob Asher apparently appears to be a very good guy. Why does Joe Hoeffel throw that out there then during a campaign? Is that another ploy?
I wasn't his campaign manager. The fact is, because both parties No, it did not. It obviously didn't work again this time either. It's never been an effective argument because it's totally fallacious. The reality is that every time it's been used, it's failed. And you have to understand that both parties, when they do campaigning, you have to vet when it's party against party. The Republican Party is not going to print anything that isn't valid. The Democratic Party is not going to print anything unless it's valid or used by the other party. Everything Joe used against me, he was allowed to use by his party and his mailings because it was said by Bruce Castor, a Republican, against me in the primary season.
I have to say, though, when you're in my shoes and all your constituents are, it just seems like politics is so dirty.
It's disgusting.
And it is, and a little corrupt. And it certainly appears Mr. Hoeffel used that purely for campaign ploy. He knows people aren't looking into Bob Asher. They don't know his name, but they hear bribery, and they think, and they connect it to your name. That's right. That's why it's done. and that's why people have such a cynical attitude.
I don't think it'll be used
sometimes.
again because it's been ineffective now against Governor Ridge, against the Attorney General, and against myself.
But it shows you that candidates will say anything to get elected.
If they can't find anything negative about your ability to run government,
Right.
they'll make up with this nonsense.
Okay, what about the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission?
Tremendous organization responsible for planning, not for spending.
Okay, now
Planning.
Joe Hoeffel has been put in charge of that.
He's not. He's one of 35 or 38 participants in DVRPC. Because there's 4 counties across the border in Jersey. There's 8 counties over here, and we all send representatives over there. Our elected people go over there. Our heads of our planning commission go over there. Our redevelopment people go over there. And you sit in as a vast planning group, and you try and plan out growth, economic growth for the region.
So contrary to what Bruce Castor says, he can't be using this to fill his campaign
He had
coffers.
no clue what he was talking about. The DVRPC doesn't give out contracts, doesn't give out awards. And if anything, Montgomery County is infamous among the Delaware Valley regional participants as always having more than our fair share of argument as to what we're going to get. You know what you get when you're really good and effective at DVRPC? You get more highway funding for you. We don't allocate it out. The idea of DVRPC is to get your share in.
But he
And
certainly will
I'd
make close
much rather
contacts with contractors controlling millions of
No.
dollars.
Absolutely not. That's not what DVRPC does. It's getting federal dollars towards our planning goals. It's the idea of bringing home the bacon. It is not assigning out bacon. That's where Bruce had it completely wrong. It's not that type of position.
Okay.
It's a planning position where you try and get federal shares and argue for your highway and bridge needs for the area. Now, who would you rather have arguing for you? I think a guy who served several terms in Congress and ran statewide and spent 7 years as a county commissioner is the most effective guy we can have in there arguing for our fair share of federal dollars.
Okay, briefly, Ken Davis, back to him for a second. A lot in your party say he's a very weak GOP leader and they would like him to step down. Do you think he should step down?
Well, why would you step down when the election's 2 months away? Why would you create a vacancy?
Also, briefly, Mario Mealy, Joe Hoeffel cut a similar deal back in the 90s. Did that help the county? We can actually go back and look to see if a deal like this served the county beneficially before. Did that serve the county
I can't
well?
say. I wasn't in county government at the time, but I would say that when we went in, we had a 3-to-1 majority on the salary board, and when Mario cut that deal, he created a 2-to-2 tie. And then it had to go on the selective basis, and that's why it was chaos for several years. So no, it did not behoove the position of the Republican Party, because it took us from a position of majority to a position of tie, whereas I've taken us from a position of tie to a majority.